So in this video, I'm going to show you how to install an M.2 SSD onto your motherboard of your desktop or your laptop. It's the same thing, but there's some things you got to know to make sure you buy the right SSD. Otherwise, it just flat won't work. And it's all about the speed. There's two major types of M.2 SSDs. Those that support the old magnetic hard drive SATA protocol, which gives you read speeds of a maximum of 5 to 600 megabytes per second. And then there's the newer non-volatile memory express protocol for M.2 SSDs, and that can give you astounding read speeds of 3 to 4,000 megabytes per second or possibly even higher. Now, in comparison, an old magnetic hard drive will typically have read speeds of 100 to 150 megabytes per second. So an SSD that uses SATA protocol will be about 4 to 5 times faster than a magnetic hard drive. And then if you can get an SSD, an M.2 SSD that does non-volatile memory express, you're looking at 4 to 5 times faster again. So overall, a non-volatile memory express M.2 SSD, you're looking at about 20 times faster than that old magnetic hard drive you could be replacing. So the quick way of knowing what type of SSD your motherboard might take is to look at the connector of the M.2 SSD. If it has two notches in it, that would be the B key notch and the M key notch. And when those edges, when you have both edges missing, that is typically a SATA protocol M.2. So if you see the two little plastic notches that would accept this M.2 SSD, your motherboard probably supports SATA protocol, but you need to look at your documentation to verify that. If your connector only has one notch, then it very well could be supporting non-volatile memory express. But once again, check your documentation to make sure you buy the right type. Because if you buy the wrong type of M.2, if your M.2 talks SATA protocol and your motherboard talks non-volatile memory express, it no worky, or vice versa. So make sure you do it right. Here are some examples of M.2s that have both types of connectors. So typically what I've seen is if it has the M connector and the B connector, it is SATA protocol. And if it only has the M edge connector, it is non-volatile memory express. So just a little bit of data here in support of what I was saying about the two types of connectors on the M.2 and the ones with both the B connector and the M connector typically being SATA protocol. If I look through here, I'm looking at, typically 500 gigabyte SSDs, M.2s, and if I drill down here, you'll see I'm looking at the slower speeds. So these would be ones that are SATA, and you can see pretty much all of them have both edge connectors. So that is very typical. Now, if I jump to this window, I'm looking at the higher speed M.2 SSDs that only have the M key edge connector. You can see we've only got one connector on each of these. And these are the ones that are much faster, and they're using the non-volatile memory express protocol. So the bottom line is to know what your motherboard supports, do your research. So now let's jump into the actual installation of that M.2 SSD. Now, to install that M.2 SSD on the motherboard, you need to have the riser lug and the little screw that goes into the riser lug to secure that SSD to the motherboard. Now quit trying to read the model number of the motherboard and look at the lug right here and the little screw, because if you've lost these, it's going to be very annoying when you have to go online and buy this little bit of metal and this little screw so you can install your M.2 SSD. Don't be that guy. All right, so let's install this SSD onto this motherboard. Now, it's got to go into the M.2 slot at precisely a 30-degree angle. For gosh sake, don't go to 29 degrees or 31 degrees or disaster could loom. It could be the end of the world. Either that or it'll go in just fine. But in order for me to finish installing it, I have to have this riser lug at the proper position. So for this SSD, the riser lug needs to be right about there. You see it? And then if I was installing this shorter SSD, then the riser lug would just have to go right there. And it just screws in. So let me see if I can deftly and correctly screw this lug into the motherboard. There it is. Just hand tight is fine. Now I'm going to grab my Samsung SSD, get it the right way, that'd be good. Once again, shooting for exactly 30 degrees, then I can push it down, and now I've got to get the little screw that, there, can you see it? It's not focusing. That goes into the riser to secure the SSD, and you don't have to overly tighten it, but that's what holds it in place, and it's as simple as that to install the SSD in the motherboard. Wasn't that wonderful? So let's look at this, installing it to a different motherboard just to show you it's absolutely the same. Now quit trying to worry about what model number this motherboard is, and let's look. I've got a shorter SSD, an M.2 SSD. I've already got the lug at the right location for this one. Once again, the magical, super important 30-degree angle. Push the drive in. Push the drive down. Grab my little screw. Very carefully line it up over the lug and turn it till it's snug. Think you can handle that? I know you can. Well, there you have it, folks. On behalf of the entire staff here at The Nerd Is In, I would like to congratulate you for completing your online training on M.2 SSD installation. Thanks a lot, and take care. By the way, I just want to assure you that no motherboards were harmed in the making of this video. Neither the MSI nor the ASRock were harmed because they've been dead for some time. That's why I didn't bother to use the holy talisman, the anti-static strap.